Good afternoon and welcome to ZTN News Blitz, our top stories. Zimbabwe security forces to enforce COVID-19 quarantine. Is Zimbabwe ready for e-learning? We'll be telling you more. Zimbabwe's initial tobacco selling price down by 11%. And in sport, CAF waits for Zifa on season resumption. Now, the health authorities in Zimbabwe have approached police to enforce a mandatory coronavirus quarantine for returning citizens. Health and Childcare Secretary Dr. Agnes Mahomva told ZTN that no one will be allowed to breach quarantine, and about 1,000 Zimbabweans who returned from home from various bases abroad are quarantined as recommended by the World Health Organization. Reports, however, indicate that some returnees are pulling a few strings to be allowed to leave isolation centers before expiration of the quarantine period.
What is it that we should do? Strengthen all those other measures, whether you're looking at ensuring that people are doing the hand washing, ensuring that those who need to be isolated are isolated, ensuring that we're following up those contacts, every single one of them, and making sure that they remain quarantined where they need to. If you're not obeying what you're supposed to be, rope in the police as well, because that's part of working as a team to ensure that people know we are serious. If there's mandatory quarantine, you must stay there so that you don't spread it to other people.
Now, there are mixed feelings among Zimbabweans to the proposal by Cabinet to impose a moratorium on evictions of tenants delaying rent payments during the lockdown. Cabinet also proposed stay of illegal action against landlords who may delay payment of mortgage installments during the same period. ZTN spoke to some residents in Harare who had this to say.
Decision yakaitwa nehurumende yekuti vanhu vambomira kubhadhara marenzi decision yakanaka, since vanhu vari mulockdown saizvozvi mabhizinesi akawanda ari down, vanhu havasi kukwanisa kureza mafani.
Tinoda kutenda nekutaura kwehurumende kuti vanhu vambobatsirikana nengari yemarenzi. Shuwa zvakaomera munhu wese, zvinenge zvakanaka chose, wakatora danho rakanaka nekuti iko zvinezvo vanhu vakagara mukati medzimba hawana zvavari kuita.
Kusabhadhara marenzi kune kuri right kuti vanhu vanenge vasabhadhara because lockdown ika vanhu vanenge vasina kana mari.
Vamwe vari kutambira mari shoma, maybe 2,200 kuti uzokwanisa kubhadhara rende yemwedzi usina kubhadhara muri palockdown, zvinenge zvadifikaoti.
Zimbabwe finds itself in two battlefronts. On one hand, it is grappling with COVID-19, and on the other, prices of basic commodities have gone up beyond the reach of many. The issue of the prices, however, is an old one. Last week, government manufacturers and retailers agreed that prices of basic commodities commodities be revised to trading figures as at March 25, 2020. But most retailers are yet to abide by this agreement as prices are still going up. Industry and Commerce Minister Dr. Sekai Nzenza yesterday said government will continue engaging industry and retailers to reach a common understanding.
Regarding prices, as a government, we are listening. We are also listening to the challenges that are being faced by the retailers and the shopkeepers. They're talking about the challenges to do with the lack of raw materials, that they also need foreign currency. Be that as it may, we still need to talk and have a dialogue in good faith.
Meanwhile, retailers have blamed suppliers for the price hikes. Zimbabwe Retailers Association President Denford Mutashu told ZTN that a price monitoring committee is being set up to ensure both retailers and suppliers adhere to the agreement to reduce prices.
We are also finalizing a monitoring format, which is actually going to be formed by, or rather constituted out of all the members that have been part of this engagement. So they will all contribute in terms of a pool of monitors that would then ensure that there is a bit of enforcement. We are doing all this engagement in spirit of good faith, but at the same time, we also have got to ensure that they sign it at the end of the day at implementation. There shouldn't be any player in the retail and wholesale sector who would be found to be shortchanging. Yet we would have agreed on a path that we all have got to work.
Still on prices of basic commodities, while most locals have been contending with volatile prices, some with a few funds to spare turn to South Africa, where prices are relatively stable and of course friendly to the pocket. But with both Zimbabwe and South Africa on lockdown due to COVID-19, it has become difficult for individuals to bring groceries from across the Limpopo. As a result, some have returned to online grocery service providers who, at the click of a button, deliver groceries at one's doorstep. Takuzo Chambakwe explores the matter further in the following report.
With prices of basic commodities soaring, any alternative that gives consumers value for money in the lockdown is a great relief. The situation has been made worse by the closure of borders. Those who used to import their monthly supplies are somewhat stranded. But it is not all gloomy, as one supplier of basic commodities is still operating. Malaisha.com, an online grocery service which allows people in South Africa to buy goods for their loved ones in Zimbabwe, is still operating as it is regarded as an essential service. A visit to one of their branches shows that business is booming in the midst of the lockdown.
We have seen a surge in business since the lockdown because the informal Malaysia can no more cross into Zimbabwe through those informal means. So people have now opted to use us as their service provider to get goods and groceries to their families in Zimbabwe.
Mr. Ventura says they are well stocked and are ready to handle demand, but in the midst of brisk business, social distancing is being observed.
So before the lockdown, we had just started introducing deliveries, and then we felt the need to ramp that up so as to reduce the amount of people in our queues and the amount of people. It helps us control in social distancing, and so we've actually offered free delivery to our customers.
Due to the ban on traveling without clearance, the company is now delivering goods to clients at no extra cost.
The closure of the borders and all haven't affected us as much because goods and grocery essential goods like groceries are still allowed to travel between countries and all. So it hasn't been that much of a problem for us. We're still able to bring our stock in. We were lucky enough, for some reason we decided to do a major stock up. So we bought a lot of stock before this lockdown. That also managed to get us through this period.
However, like any business operating in such an environment, they have their own share of challenges.
I think our biggest challenge is the operating times that we've been given. Everyone's been capped to a few hours a day. It's hard for us to turn people back. Someone's been sitting in a queue for a few hours and it's reached 3 o'clock. It's hard for us to say that, look, we've reached 3 o'clock, go back. So that's been a challenge for us. So we're trying to do things as fast as possible. That's also why we've ramped up our deliveries so that it helps us within that time frame that we've been given. It's been very hard to operate within that time frame.
Zimbabwe's 2020 tobacco season began this morning. The country's first tobacco bale was sold for $4 per kilogram compared to the opening price of $4.50 last season. The lowest price was 90 cents per kilogram, and Zimbabwe's Agriculture Minister Perence Shiri says the sector must be supported.
Engage and empower all your stakeholders, especially the growers. The fight in the industry cannot be effective without empowering people and their full participation. It is gratifying to note that the tobacco industry has commendably developed and implemented WHO recommended COVID-19 preventive public health measures at all selling points.
Zimbabwe's Education Ministry is considering the option of e-learning should the opening of schools for the second term be delayed by COVID-19. But teachers' representatives are skeptical. Progressive Teachers Union of Zimbabwe President Dr. Takavafira Zhou said adopting e-learning might prejudice a majority of learners who do not have access to internet services.
We cannot successfully implement e-learning because the challenge is that when you look at the secondary schools, more than 70% of the secondary schools do not have access to e-learning. We don't have electricity in the rural areas. And more than 85% of the primary schools do not have access to e-learning. So e-learning is virtually a non-starter, considering that our technology is so low and it needs electricity. You need also computers, and our students do not have access to such computers. And even television as well as radio lessons are a non-starter because more than 75% of our students do not have frequency to radio as well as television.
Zimbabwe Teachers Association Chief Executive Officer Sifiso Ndlovu weighed in.
Those that are in the urban environment where they can access probably that kind of an online learning, the data will be too expensive for them to access, making it impossible. Not only the data, the equipment, the smartphones, the tablets and computers are not available.
President of the Amalgamated Rural Teachers Union of Zimbabwe, Obet Masaraure, said some teachers have started conducting lessons via WhatsApp, but only a few students from the rural areas have access to the mobile phone application.
The majority of our learners who come from rural backgrounds are not in class. Our WhatsApp classes are mainly filled up with learners from rural boarding schools and the good schools from urban areas like in Harare. Yes, learners from St. John's. We have learners from these big schools in Harare, Bulawayo, enrolling in those classes. But the majority of our learners from poor backgrounds are not enrolling. So we know for a fact that learners will not be able to access it, and this will further entrench inequality as we are going to be leaving the majority of our people behind. So if government really is thinking about that, it can be rolled out if and only if they are prepared to be giving a learning package to all our O-level, A-level and grade 7 candidates.
Zimbabwe's government has told vendors that the demolition of illegal vending stalls is not meant to punish them. Local government Deputy Minister Marion Chombo say the exercise, which is being carried out nationwide, is aimed at ensuring that vendors conduct their business in orderly and hygienic environments.
We are not trying to punish anybody. We are just trying to make sure that everybody has enough water, good health, and can work or do his or her business in a safe environment. You know, the WHO demands that we have a safe, the 1 meter social distancing. We have to provide sanitize. And how could we have provided that in the environment that we were operating on? So people are complaining, people are crying, but as a government, we have to make sure we provide the necessary environment.
The International Labour Organization has warned that about half of all workers worldwide are in danger of having their livelihoods destroyed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The figure equates to more than 1.5 billion people. COVID-19 has infected more than 3.1 million people around the world and killed nearly 220,000 others. The ILO says those with informal work arrangements are in most danger, and many are in the retail sector, manufacturing, and the food services industry. We move on to sports, where CAF requests decisions from African League on season resumptions. Now, CAF waits for Zifa on season resumption. The Confederation of African Football has written to the Zimbabwe Football Association and other 53 members seeking direction on season resumptions. While the Zimbabwe Premier Soccer League season hasn't begun, CAF will want to know what the plans are as they are making plans for the 2020-2021 Champions League and Confederation Cup competitions. Juventus Argentine winger Paulo Dybala has, for the fourth time in 6 weeks, tested positive for COVID-19. The 26-year-old has confirmed on March 21 that he and his girlfriend, Oriana Sabatini, had contracted the global pandemic after his first test came positive for the disease. Former Zimbabwe international Ezra Nyandoro's public auction to sell football items did not take place on Monday night as planned. The sale was cancelled after a private bidder who chose to remain anonymous underwrote the auction for an undisclosed amount. Items on auction included Nyandoro's 2004 Africa Cup of Nations jerseys and the boots he put on when Zimbabwe played Ghana at the 2006 AFCON finals in Egypt. The auction was to raise funds for the fight against the coronavirus in Zimbabwe and South Africa. Now, up next is the diplomatic passport with Robert Mukandiwa. Rob, where is our diplomatic passport taking us today?
Well, thank you so much, Samantha. You're looking stunning in that black. But on to diplomatic passport today. Our diplomatic passport is taking us on an exclusive trip to Bulawayo, where we've got that patient, COVID patient number 21, who was accused of being one of the people who were recklessly going around the city after testing positive, and she was accused of probably spreading the disease or putting people in danger. We went there. We wanted to hear what she would say, give her side of the story to the rest of the world, because that's what we do in Diplomatic Passport. And indeed, we've got that exclusive of her speaking to us. So look out for COVID patient number 21, giving her side of the story.
Blitz, do stand by for the diplomatic passport with Robert Mukandiwa.